joining us for our midday practice. Although it depends on where you're located. If you're not in Perth, Western Australia, but far away, it might be the end of your day, it might be the beginning of a new day, it might be in between somewhere. Nevertheless, it is good to know that you're here, and even if you are replaying this video or watching it back because you couldn't attend live, that's totally fine. It's just great to know that you're looking after yourself in this particular way, and that you're accessing resources that are available online. And there are so many resources available online nowadays, which is really good. And also in the light of mindfulness and compassion, there's so many different teachers that you can link in with and check out and practice with and take further, or do it as a one-off kind of session. For the majority of people who are signed up in this particular drop-in meditation practice, you have perhaps participated a few times in the past, and if you could attend last week, then you heard me talking about that this week will be dedicated to a particular mindfulness compassion practice, which is called R.A.I.N. And before we go ahead, I just need to make sure that, or just let you know that if you don't feel in the space right now to explore a particular way of being with this R.A.I.N technique, then you maybe just use the time to do the mindfulness of the breath or body scan, or maybe just listen to sounds, or maybe just turn on some relaxation music, or go really back to the meditation sessions that have been recorded and here for you. You can start from the beginning, just with a light touch, to learn and experience a particular way of being. Why am I saying that? Because the R.A.I.N practice that has been developed, I don't know, more than 14 years ago, or even longer, I don't know, but by a Buddhist teacher called Michelle McDonald. And some of you may have heard of this technique because Tara Brach, the one that I referred to last week, has modified this practice, and so many other teachers have modified this R.A.I.N practice, which is dedicated or very useful for dealing with difficult emotions. So we might touch difficult emotions in the practice today, and that's the reason, if you don't really feel equipped, if you don't have anything that helps you grounding, or it doesn't feel safe enough, then maybe the most skillful way to attend to this is indeed perhaps start with something lighter, with something very basic, rather than doing the R.A.I.N practice right now. But alternatively, if you still don't want to miss out, you can just listen to the instructions and then maybe just see whether you want to take it further. And this week will be all about this R.A.I.N practice, so we will continue exploring it and taking it from there. If you do have any questions, you of course can email me about it, or or just drop a comment here in this white chat box. So I'm pretty sure everyone who's here right now has experienced some difficult emotions in the past, and we all human beings, we take experiences to our hearts, and sometimes it can be really, really impactful depending on the events or triggers that are happening, or circumstances or situations that make us feel a particular way. And that can be very exhausting and distressing. We might feel overwhelmed, or we might feel numb, depending on the pattern and the mechanism that we have developed over the many years to maybe also protect ourselves. But sometimes you might find yourself lost in obsessive thinking. You might find yourself having this urge to act on that feeling, anger, or sometimes you may feel anxious, sometimes you feel guilty, sometimes you feel depressed. Sometimes you feel shame is in the room, and that also can be a very intense, difficult emotions. And as I said, we have developed a certain way in dealing with difficult emotions, and most of the time what happens is it doesn't really connect us with the presence because we feel it's too difficult to embrace and to be with. So actually the opposite, when we get involved in the automatic reactions, it really takes us away from the here and now. We become more reactive and we are really lost in our reactions. And sometimes even we don't even know what's going on because we just react, and that's really based on our habits that we have developed. And again, as I said, we often think or are of the belief if we feel the emotions or if we embrace them, it only gets worse and intensifies. And who wants to have this intensified? So you better get out of there and distract yourself, right? No one wants to suffer. But how about taking a different approach and maybe even bringing in compassion and kindness as a way to respond to the emotions that you feel, and attending to the emotions in a very particular way. So this is something that I want to teach you or practice with you in our next during the next days. And the practice that I have mentioned is called R.A.I.N, and the 4 letters are actually an acronym for the 4 steps that we are going to practice. So the first step is recognizing what is happening right now and what is really true. So by rather than getting lost in our reactions, if we catch that moment and it feels safe enough and we can actually drop in and recognize what is happening right now, recognize the thoughts, recognize the emotions and the sensations. What is true? What are the facts right now? Would be the first step. The second step is then, okay, so what do I do with this? Once I know, what do I do next? Is the invitation to simply let it be as it is. So allow it, allow life to be as it is. And that's the only way to healing, right? But it sounds very radical, and if you're not trained or practice in this can be challenging. But it's also very liberating. The third step is the I. What's the I standing for? It's standing for the invitation to investigate the inner experience, in particular with this attitude of kindness, compassion, and friendliness. We often are so harsh on ourselves. Our inner critic is very dominant and tells us all sorts of things and is putting us down. So how about we respond with whatever we're feeling right here, right now, with that inner compassionate voice, and investigate the best we can. And then the fourth step is in the origins called non-identification. We often take our experience very personally and identify with what is happening. So the modified version, which I really like, the invitation to rather to maybe just respond with nourishment. Let's put it that way. So I think Tara Brach is working or has developed this step, nourishment as the fourth part of the R.A.I.N practice. So this is something that I want to explore with you together by just simply practicing it and inviting you, if you're feeling ready, taking your seat and just noticing as you're taking your seat, how you're choosing your seat, and coming into a posture that feels upright and dignified. And if it feels right, even closing the eyes fully or partially. And maybe just noticing, what does this moment feel like? Maybe you're noticing there's already a little bit of reaction to what I've just shared with you, Maybe not at all, maybe there's some curiosity, maybe there is some anxiety. Whatever it is, see whether you can simply notice, and again, take a moment to choose your posture skillfully so that you get a sense of groundedness, feeling the soles of your feet flat on the floor. Maybe getting a sense of that support from the knees, from the earth. Feeling your legs, the buttocks, how the lower part of the body is supporting the upper body in its uprightness. Maybe placing the hands on your lap or on top of your thighs. Noticing the front of the torso, noticing the back of the torso. Noticing the head on top of your neck, including your face, the forehead, the ears. So being aware of the entire body. And if you just scan through the body in this particular way very briefly, if you noticed any discomfort, maybe adjusting the best you can. Maybe you need a little stretch, maybe you need to loosen up a little bit, releasing some tension, maybe moving the shoulders, circling or lifting them. If you're noticing any tension in the neck region. And whenever you're feeling ready, shifting the focus to the breath. And just feeling the air coming in and out of the body. No I, no me, no myself, no control, no manipulation. See whether you can let the air simply flow into this body and out of it in its own rhythm. And if this is all what you want to do right now, just following the breath and feeling the breath, then please go ahead and continue with just simply keeping the focus on the breath. If there is another natural anchor you feel drawn to, maybe sounds, then please practice with sounds. Or if you like and want to explore a little bit this R.A.I.N practice, then feel invited to just dropping in and noticing what you're experiencing right now. The first step, recognize the here and now. As you're coming into this relative stillness, noticing what is present in the mind, or in the body, and see whether you can just bring this attitude toward the practice in general of kindness and curiosity, openness. Simply observing rather than reacting right now. Noticing thoughts, noticing emotions, noticing sensations. Maybe even noticing any impulses right now. There might be a thought coming up, or a sense of confusion, a sort of maybe injustice. There might be a feeling of hurt. There might be a sense of heaviness in the body somewhere. Whatever it is, see whether you can simply recognize it without getting involved into the story or the narrative. Just noticing the signature of this moment. It can be even something pleasant, but if it's unpleasant, would it be possible to acknowledge for what it is? Maybe it's pleasant, maybe it's unpleasant. And maybe noticing that tendency to change it, would it be possible to simply allow it to be here, to be felt and sensed, without changing it? That's different, right? Just allowing yourself to not be too hard on yourself. Just simply allowing, letting be the experience as it is unfolding. And if it feels safe, if you want to go even a step further, doing a little bit of inquiry, investigation. So it's, when I say investigation, we don't mean intellectual kind of analyzing the experience. It's just this attitude of interest and curiosity that you want to bring to, maybe with a sense of tenderness, of friendliness. Maybe even opening up to other characteristics of this experience, maybe some softer feelings. And knowing any time it gets difficult, you can also or shift the focus to the anchor of the breath, or sounds, or offering yourself a supportive, soothing touch. if that helps you in responding with kindness. And as you are observing and sensing into the now, in this particular way, you may also see that it is actually possible to be with this particular experience without changing it, without making it any different, without identifying with it. Not engaging, not plotting any narratives, just simply observing the streaming nature of thoughts coming and going, sensations appearing and disappearing, emotions arising and passing. The good thing is that you do not have to take this personally. Instead, just offering yourself to respond with kindness, to hold yourself with compassion, that's quite radical and quite different to how we normally react. Just noticing what it feels like as you are practicing this particular way of being and responding to something that may feel unpleasant. Could be a difficult emotion, could be just a difficult thought or sensation, and seeing how this is all interlinked. But also maybe seeing how this is also passing if you don't get entangled in plotting a particular narrative or identifying yourself with a story. Just simply observing. In the most kindest and compassionate way. Nourishing yourself, again by offering yourself a supportive touch, or maybe hearing this inner compassionate voice saying it's okay, that it's not okay right now, but it's okay, I can feel it. And then maybe shifting the focus to the breath. And feeling the breath coming in and out. nourishing, supporting, anchoring. So this was the first step, the first day, the first practice for this week. And just getting a taste of the practice called R.A.I.N, which we want to explore a little bit further. So the invitation is that you maybe join me every day and we practice this together, and you perhaps even practice it in between. Anytime you notice or you experience something that feels a little bit difficult, it is a way, it's very similar to the stop practice. You might have heard that. Stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. This is just another way of dropping into this particular moment and stepping out of automatic reactivity. And yes, this requires courage, but it also requires kindness and compassion and curiosity. So anytime it feels safe, see whether you can continue exploring R.A.I.N, recognize, acknowledge what's here, allow it, let it be here, investigate with curiosity and kindness what is this imprint or signature of this experience, thoughts, emotions, sensations, impulses, and then noticing tendencies, how we believe whatever is happening, how we identify with our experience, and would it be possible, rather than identifying, maybe just not taking it personally and just seeing that impermanence, the arising and passing of the experience or the characteristics of the experience, and perhaps using this as an opportunity to simply nourish yourself and weave in a little bit of compassion practice, offering yourself a supportive touch or anchoring yourself in a natural anchor, the breath or sound, or maybe hearing that compassionate voice whispering into your ears, it's okay, that it's not okay, and I can feel it, and I can offer myself a gesture of kindness right here, right now, and then see what happens. Pay attention to it. Well, so good that you're here. It would be awesome to hear a little bit of feedback, how this session, this practice is going for you. I'm very curious about. I'm very mindful that I don't have you here. I can't see you, so I cannot really respond. So again, I trust that you take skillful action. And if you don't feel safe or in the right place, then don't do this practice. There's so many other meditation techniques or relaxation techniques that you can explore and practice. Maybe you do that before and then you do the R.A.I.N practice. Thank you so much for joining in today, and I hope you can make it for our session tomorrow. Goodbye for now. That's good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Care. It'd be really lovely to know how you pronounce your name. Goodbye, everyone.